The first bite. The buzzing began at midnight. Ethan Carter sat up in bed, rubbing his eyes. The sound was faint at first, like a distant fly trapped behind a window. He swatted at the air, groggy and annoyed. The room was dark, save for the dim glow of the street lamp filtering through his blinds. Then he felt it, a sharp, piercing sting on his neck. Ethan yelped, slapping at the spot. His fingers brushed something tiny, an insect maybe. He flicked on his bedside lamp and rushed to the mirror. A small red puncture mark had formed just above his collarbone, swelling slightly. "Great," he muttered, "freaking mosquito." He sighed and turned back to bed, but the buzzing didn't stop. It grew louder. Closer. Ethan's blood ran cold. The sound wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from within, from inside his skin. The next morning, the itch had worsened. The single bite had swollen into a small pulsating lump. Ethan pressed against it, wincing. It was warm, too warm, like something was alive inside. By noon, the pain was unbearable. He locked himself in the bathroom, peeling off his shirt. The lump had grown, stretching his skin, throbbing. Then it moved. Ethan choked back a scream as the skin beneath the swelling shifted, as though something were writhing beneath the surface. A tiny black leg poked out, twitching. He staggered back, gripping the sink. His vision blurred. His body trembled. There was something inside him, and it was trying to get out. The hatchlings. Ethan didn't go to work. He barely ate. He spent hours staring at the mirror, watching the lump in his skin pulse, twist, and stretch. By nightfall, the pain sharpened into something unbearable. His breath hitched as he felt his flesh tear open. Something wet and slick slithered from the wound. A tiny, glistening black insect crawled out of his neck, its spindly legs sticky with blood. It had too many legs, too many eyes. Ethan froze in horror. The creature scuttled down his shoulder, disappearing into the shadows of his room. Then he felt another movement beneath his skin, and another. One by one, they began to emerge, dozens of them, crawling from his flesh. Ethan couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt them, skittering across his sheets, burrowing beneath his skin. He could feel their tiny legs crawling inside him, weaving through his veins. No one believed him. His boss called, demanding to know why he hadn't shown up. His friends sent messages, but he ignored them. How could he explain that his body had become a nest? He tried everything, scratching, cutting, burning, but no matter what he did, they kept coming. Crawling out of his arms, his legs, his chest. Then the voices started, soft, whispering voices. "We are inside you now," Ethan sobbed, gripping his head. He wasn't just infected, he was becoming something else. The queen. The things inside him weren't ordinary insects. They were growing. One night, as Ethan convulsed in agony, something much larger pushed its way out of his ribs. A thick, pulsating mass erupted from his flesh. It was no longer just insects. This was something worse, something intelligent. The queen. It slithered onto the floor, sleek and black, its body shifting, reshaping. It looked at him with too many eyes, its mandibles clicking hungrily. "You are ours now," it whispered. Ethan fell to his knees, feeling his body unravel, his humanity slipping away. The queen had claimed him, and there was no escape. The hive. Ethan was no longer just Ethan. He was part of something bigger. The creatures inside him had taken root, transforming him from the inside out. His fingers fused into jagged claws, his skin hardened into a blackened shell. He could hear them now, not just whispering, but screaming, begging for more. The queen burrowed deep into his chest, her tendrils wrapping around his heart. His veins pulsed with something thick and dark. He was no longer a man. He was the hive. The swarm. The infection spread fast. The first to fall was his neighbor, then the cashier at the grocery store, then the entire apartment complex. One sting was all it took. By the time the city realized what was happening, it was too late. The streets teemed with them. Black, writhing creatures pouring from every alley, every sewer, every body. The queen had multiplied, and the world belonged to them now. As Ethan stood atop the tallest building, his body nothing more than a twisted husk, he felt no pain, no fear, only hunger, and with a final whisper, he unleashed the swarm. The sky turned black, and the world screamed.